Laura.
Hi, Ms. Beto.
How are you?
Good, thank you.
So I'm here to have a meeting with you before I can start my module 8
Okay.
to see how I can work in your class and, well,
Okay.
any lessons or things that I have to do.
Okay. So you're going to start with chapter 4, which is subtraction strategies from Go Math. And the unit in chapter 4, it's all about subtraction and teaching them different strategies that they can use. And we're going to be using standards CC1 OA6 and
Okay.
CC1 OA1. OA1, yes.
That is
And-
subtraction, addition and subtraction.
See, but this chapter is only going to be focusing on subtraction. You might be teaching them some subtraction strategies that involve addition, but the majority of this unit is subtraction. And you're going to have to teach them how, for example, also OA1 says you're going to have to teach them how to solve word problems. So you're going to have to help the students find keywords, like, for example, taking apart, putting together, comparing. And what's hard for the kids is finding the unknown numbers in different positions. So you're also going to be teaching them that and teaching them different strategies for that. And you can use blocks, objects, drawings, and it depends on the student. And I'm also going to tell you which are the ELL students because they're also going to need extra support. And the kids know the expectations and routines. So usually how it works, in the morning, they get morning work, which is related to math. They do that on their own. And after 10 or 15 minutes, they put their stuff away and we start the whole class lesson. But we divide them into groups. Usually it's high, mediums, and lows, or based on ELLs. And the lows are always going to be working with the IA at their table.
Okay.
The highs work independently, and they usually have something extra to do at the end. And the middle students, usually some of them can work independently, but they might need extra reinforcement. So you can either be working with the ELLs, or you can be working with the middle students, giving them extra reinforcement, or also sometimes with the highs, giving them different strategies or harder word problems. Yeah. And after you do the whole group lesson, they know they have to do work on their own in their big math book, which is this one. And they usually are very good at working independently, but since we group them in groups, you can choose which group you want to decide to work with that day. But the low group has always extra support constantly, either from the IA or me, or in this case, maybe you.
Okay.
And if you want, you can work with each group each different day, so you can see
Like the difference
the
between the groups.
difference between each groups and the strategies they use. Because even sometimes the highs don't even use blocks, it's just like mental math.
Okay.
But you also see that sometimes the lows still struggle using blocks. We've also implemented the number line. So you can also teach them how to use the number line because some kids still get confused.
Okay.
So the gap is very big, so you get to see that, yeah.
Okay, sure.
And so the kids they're already set in the routines, they already know the expectations. And then I've also seen the rubric you've sent me.
Okay.
So you know I'm going to be evaluating you on everything according to the rubric. And I think it would be a good idea that before you start coming in, before your first lesson, we have another meeting so we can look at each part of the rubric in detail so we can see what is expected of you and we can make sure that you are doing that every day in the classroom.
Okay, and as for this, how is the assessment? How does the assessment go? Like in how long, how many units or how many lessons before the assessment, or how do you assess them?
We assess them informally each day in class when we're in groups.
Observing.
Observing. You can kind of tell who's getting it, who's not. And each day, their morning work is a formative assessment. So it's usually work that they've done. The lesson we've taught before is what they do the next day in the morning. So if you're teaching lesson 1, let's say tomorrow, the day after that, their morning work would be on lesson 1. So it's kind of like a review, so you can see who got it, who didn't get it, or who's got the facts like that. So that's how we assess them formally with the worksheets that they get for morning work. And then we have a mid-chapter checkpoint, which is after 3 lessons, and it's also formative. We don't do it as a summative. It's a formative for us to see which kids need extra help, or maybe the kids are getting it like that. So sometimes the kids are very good at a lesson. We go through the lesson really fast and we teach 2 lessons in a day. But sometimes the majority of the kids don't get it, so we go back. And usually on Fridays, we try to do centers, also based on their level and also as a review. So for example, the high kids might also do something that the low kids are doing, so they all rotate through the centers. Or if some kids have not gotten it that day during centers, you go back to lesson 1 and start all over again.
Oh, that's what I was going to ask you. If there's a group of students that didn't understand the previous lesson, do you still move on? Or do you help them like work separately on what they didn't understand, like with the IA or
So you can
only
kind
with
of
that group?
yeah, only with that group. So probably during the next day during morning work, instead of them doing the formative assessment, we would get in a little group and like 5-10 minutes review and go over it, and then we would move on, because sometimes you'll see that they might not get like lesson 3, but they do get lesson 4. So we sometimes do have to move on, but on Fridays when we do centers, that's when we go back and say, okay, these kids didn't get this, so we go back and we teach it again to them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think that's it. I think I'm gonna start my module 8 on November 20th.
Okay.
Around November 20th.
Yeah.
I don't know how it works. I don't know if my first video is gonna be that day, but we can schedule like a meeting before that.
Yes, so we can look at your rubric
the
and make sure
rubric
you're covering
and-
all those points.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Naka.